No, I'm not.
Okay, recording in progress. So, well, welcome to the show, Sherry. This is, we're just doing an interview for the Southern Christian Writer magazine. And I am so excited you're here. How long do you think we've known each other?
Oh, 20 years probably. Don't you think it's been 20? Almost?
I
Close to
think
it?
it what? I think it is when, especially every year when it pops up, like, this is from 10 years ago. This is from 15 years ago. And you're like, I still have that same sweater. Wow.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. Well,
It's like,
the first conference I went to is 2007. So probably 18. Yeah, 18 years. I don't know. We were roommates for a lot of that time. So at Mount Herman.
yeah, the Sycamore sisters.
Sycamore sisters. Yeah.
So I just think that is one of the most important things when I talk to people about conferences is that it's not just what you learn, it's who you connect with.
Exactly.
And I just am filling out a form right now to help with special needs adults. They call them their special friends. I did a biscuit making class with the special needs adults from our church,
How
and I
fun.
had so much fun. And they had me fill out this volunteer form, and they're like, "So how do you keep yourself accountable?" And I just said, "I have friends who pray." And
Yeah.
I just think that that was the most important thing for the Sycamore sisters is that we did. There have been so many times, like I think of Abby, I think of just going through stuff with our family, and just we've had weddings and
Mhm.
just babies being born and all that, grandbabies, babies
Right.
graduating. And I just think that that is one of the most important connections that you can make at a writers conference.
Yes, pray together and laugh together because we do both. So both is really important, to get such good friends that you can, I mean, sometimes it can be stressful, and you're getting so much information when you go to a writers conference and it can be overwhelming. So sometimes just getting back to the room and just laughing and praying together and being real, with each other, it's yeah, greatest memories.
And then I was thinking too about, I love the fact that you wrote the thing of power of pivot, because you are an author who didn't always start off writing. Like, you just finished the this end of the series. So go ahead and tell everybody what that series is. But I want you to talk about your first writings.
Well, I just finished and published a book called All of My Heart, and it is in a four-book series. They're all standalone novellas, so they're all really short, a sweet romance.
Mhm.
And so there's a story in spring, summer, fall, and winter. So that was my connection with them. And it's just fun. It's just fun, light, quick reading. And I've had a lot of fun response. So that's what I did recently. But my very first book is before I even started going to writers' conferences, and that was called My Special Someone. And that is a book written by my daughter, Brittany, and I. She was 6 years old, about the adoption of her baby sister. So she did a lot of the illustrations, and I helped her write the story. And then I drew the borders around each page. And we just happened to have a woman from our church who started adoption.com, and she was taking a publishing class at the local college here, and she needed something to publish. And so it's one of those God moments that put two people together. And then she just was really interested in our story. And so that's when we published My Special Someone.
I didn't even know that. This is the first time I've heard about this. I think that
Yeah.
that is so precious, that because you don't really hear of things from a child's point of view, from a sibling's point of view.
Right. Right.
Uh, and
And
I
she
love that
wanted to call her
you
Sally. It's so
you
funny. She kept calling her Sally. Like, when is Sally coming? I know it was really
was your daughter happy that you did not name her Sally?
good. I think it was more that she just wanted her baby sister. When we told her, sorry, her name is Grace, she just kind of went, oh, okay. So that wasn't the important thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, that makes it so special is the fact that and I think this is where a lot of writers start, is they just start with what they know, and then the Lord puts a story in their heart. some people just always say, "Oh, I just wish I could do that, but I never can." And then they have this long list of why they're never going to do that thing that they
Right.
really want to do, and they never do it. But then there's people who, like you, just said, "You know what? This is okay. Let's do this. Let's move forward with this." It might not be on the New York Times bestseller list, but it was a story that needed to be told, and you gave honor to that.
Well, and I think for me, I've just always been a creative person, and
Mhm.
I love being creative. So if there's an idea that I have, I just go for it just because I enjoy it. And I think that's important is we just have to enjoy what we're doing. Like my first traditionally published book is called The Christian Girl's Guide to Style, and that's just because I was reading that series to my daughter and both my daughters actually. But and I'm like, oh, I've noticed it was a series, and I was so naive at the time that I just called up the publisher. I seriously, I called up the publisher and I just said, I love this series, and I noticed that there is different authors for these different books. Are you still accepting submissions? And they said yes. I mean, I don't recommend doing doing that, but it worked out for me. And so that's when I submitted my manuscript, and I remember getting the call that they would like to publish it. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, I went through,
Mhm.
writers conferences and a lot of work. It wasn't that makes it sound easy. It was a lot of work, but yet I just took the opportunity and I just went for it.
Well, and I think that that's a big thing too, is that fear of failure. Because my first book was on John, and it was Pumper John, and it was about concrete pumping. And I had taken a class on writing for children. And so I thought, I'm going to try this out and do this. And then through a series of happenstance or God moments, like having the guy who was in charge of the biggest, concrete pumping company in the US came to our house. So and then just being kind of bold and just saying, so how many copies would you like? Like just be taking that step. And I think that people have such a fear of failure, but if they
Yeah.
don't try, how do you know? Because one door, and I love that about how you have really been able to pivot what you've done. One door might lead to a totally different door. And for me, doing just honoring my grandmother's recipes, honoring our family's legacy, and writing our family recipe memoir led to me going to Ireland with Susie Flory. She
Right.
saw it. She goes, "That's what I need you to do." So then I started flying a drone, and then somebody else said, "That's what I need you to do." So I think sometimes when people ask, "How did you do this?" You have to almost go all the way back and just say, "We just did what we could, and we weren't afraid of, eh, defining failure as something that didn't get published or didn't do something that we thought it should. Still got us to a different place." So,
Right. What right. And I mean, when I was doing children's books for a while, but then all of a sudden the children's market just went downhill. And I just remember sitting there at a writers conference asking an agent who was sitting across from me. She was the head of the agency that I am part of. But I just said, I mean, this is so random. I just said, should I write a novel? You know? And she's like, yes, Sherry, you should. I mean, that was just her response, and that's all I needed, to go, and ideas start flowing. And then, you know, that's the path I took. And I was able to get some novels published. And I think being teachable still, because each kind of genre or book that we write takes certain skills. And unless we take the time to learn them and then we can apply them. But if you don't know what you don't know until you try something.
mhm. Well, and then each publishing house is different. Each experience is different. Each time is a little bit different. So I just feel like sometimes you're like, okay, that worked or that didn't work. And
Yeah.
so I just feel like if some people just get to a certain spot and they just quit because it's so frustrating. But then there's people who just will say, well, okay, we'll try it a different way, and they
Yeah.
keep going. So I love that. And then I loved your I love the novella that you just did at Christmas time, and you mentioned the Sycamore Sisters in it. So,
Yeah.
but the Delivered with Love, was that your first novel for?
Yes. Delivered
And
with Love. Yes. And I mean, it was amazing because at that time, Abingdon Press was starting their new fiction line. And I met with, I'm telling you, go to writers' conferences because so much
Mhm.
happens at writers' conferences. And I knew she was interested in the book already, but I had a one on one meeting with her. And I found out she lived in Capitola for a time. And that was the setting of my book. So you never know what is going to connect with an editor, whether whatever it is. And it's like it was just like a perfect match. And I just chalk it up to these are just God winks, divine moments that when you can bring the glory back to him and go, okay, wow, God, you were looking out for me here. It's
Mhm.
amazing. It is really amazing when you think about it. I mean, and there
Yeah.
there are no's. I remember trying to do there was a series that I really wanted to be a part of, and I tried for it, but it didn't work. And so sometimes you go, okay, that's when you have to pivot also, for the positive avenues, but also for the times when, okay, it didn't work out. Maybe God is calling me to something else as well. So as long as you keep looking for those opportunities and just, keep moving forward is the key, I think.
Well, and that comes back to friendship too, because I think that there have been times, for me at least, where I've told John, okay, when you get home, the computer's going to be in the driveway. I just need to back over it, and several times, because I am done. Like, this is just not working. I should have been
Yes.
a greeter at a superstore or something. Like wiping cart handles off with sanitizing wipes. I said that would have been more fulfilling, and it would have paid better.
Right. Yeah, there are definitely those moments as well, for sure.
I had a child one time. I was speaking at a, a school, and a kid said, "Okay, so if you're a published author, that means you're probably really rich." And I said, "Oh, I'll just tell you, my office is big enough to park a car in. It is the garage." So, I mean, it's just a lot of work, and sometimes you even have to take side. I've taught swim lessons to keep up on all my to help support my writing habit sometimes, but the Lord is does honor, I think, our heart's desire. And I mean, I cannot wait to give this to my granddaughter. So this is the Girl's Guide um, of Life. And then you had Love Lexi, which was super cute. I had a hard time deciding which one to get, but I felt like this one was one that she would fill in, she would
Yeah.
enjoy. But I love this. I think you have such a great heart for women, and people who have all these romance ideas and stuff, but also you have such a heart for girls. And I just think that that's such a gift too.
Well, and I think part of it is just because I'm really a 12-year-old child inside of me. I just love all that. I love all that girly stuff. I love crafts and I love making things. And I remember, because I accepted Jesus into my heart when I was 10. And so that sweet spot between 8 and 12, I just think is so pivotal for girls. And so I just have a lot of fun with it. Yeah. So,
Mhm. And I think it's great too that the moms, if the moms read some of your novellas or your adult books, or you have some that are on audiobooks. Which ones are on audio?
yes, I have. I think there's five. I have both my historical romance. I have Watercolor Dreams and Road to Harmony,
Mhm.
and I have Delivered with Love, and um, oh, Capture Me, and then
Mm.
I have my Christmas novella. Yeah,
Oh, okay. So
that one's
you're
an
so
audiobook.
so are you going to end up with all four as audiobooks? Do you
I'm
think?
not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
I'll be thinking about that. But it is a very fun process because it's like you're auditioning your narrator. You feel like you're directing a movie or something. And so it is a very fun process, and I really
Yeah.
enjoy it. So we'll see, but it's a lot of fun.
But I think it's great that moms can listen to that and know that their daughters are going to be reading something from somebody who has um, who they trust. And I
Yeah,
think that more and more, that is a very important element to children's books, is really being able to trust the author.
right,
Because especially in the Christian market, I feel like you have been, you used to trust that anything that your child was going to go to the library and check out from the
right,
library section at school or at the local library, you weren't really worried that you were going to have to censor that like you do now. And
right.
I feel like this is a great book for any moms or grandparents. Since our I bought this for our grandchild, she's coming to our house for 2 weeks this summer, so I'm gonna enjoy seeing how she enjoys this.
Yeah,
But I think that that's a big thing too, that people need to understand, is that the relationship with the author is very
mhm,
important, because whatever project they are doing, they need to have some consistency of their faith in that.
right. Faith
So,
and trust, like you mentioned. Yeah, that it's
yeah.
going to be good material, things that you want your child to read. Definitely.
Yeah. That
Hmm.
you're not going to have to censor everything before you pass it on. Like
Right.
I'm probably not going to fill this in for Avila. Like I'm going to let her do it and discover it herself.
Yeah,
So, but
exactly.
it was super cute. And then you've also worked on the Adventure Bible.
Yes, I have done some work for hire projects. I started in that, getting work for hire because I actually submitted, or my agent submitted a manuscript and it was declined. And I was really bummed about that. But then she liked my writing. And so she said, well, I have this other project. It's a work for hire project. Is she interested? And at first it was, since I was writing for girls, and then it was a adventure guide, like crafts but also activities, and I thought at first, oh, it's for boys and girls. Wait, what? And my agent's like, you have two sons, I think you'll be good. You'll be fine. I'm like, oh yeah, I do. And that book was so fun to write. And so it's an adventure guide. It's a lot of outdoor activities. It's a how to build a tent, and it's how to you know read a compass, and also some crafts. And it's really fun. There's 60 activities in there. And so I went from that project, and then they hired me for a 365-day devotional with the Adventure Bible. And that was a huge project. I mean, huge. It took me like nine months to write, but I loved it. I love all the researching and really digging into God's word and finding out, which Bible verses to use. And they gave me a basic outline of what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to get a verse from every book of the Bible. And so that was a challenge, and also on the different topics and subjects, and so that was really fun. And then I've done one other Write for Hire project with them. It just came out last May. It's with the Beginner's Bible. It's a craft and activity book. So another like 30 crafts and activities with that one.
Gosh. And then is that the one that you couldn't tell anybody for a while?
No, my secret project that I was like, everybody's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But it was a collaboration with 13 of us total authors. We wrote the Go Bible. So we didn't, of course, write the Bible part, but it was a New Living Translation, and we wrote the features in the Bible. So there's different features, book introductions, character introductions, things like that, and devotionals. And I got to write 150 factoids, or fun facts, that are sprinkled throughout the Go Bible. So
Wow.
that was really fun project. And
That
I
is really
even
good.
came to visit you, remember? Because we had a
Yeah.
retreat in
But
Tennessee.
you couldn't tell me what it was. You were like,
No, yeah. I'm like, "Zoop."
so I tried to not press you. Like, okay, just she's talking her sleep. I'll just be outside her door, just waiting. Sherry, your
What is
project is
it?
calling.
So that came out in September, and we're having, yeah, a really good response. So that's really fun.
That's great. And I think that that's the thing that makes watching your writing kind of grow. And I mean, I remember when we were in Gail Roper's class, and we were
Oh no.
we were both working on stuff. You were doing the time travel thing, the split time thing.
No, it wasn't a split time thing. That was what was wrong with my manuscript.
Oh,
Is that yeah, mine was like, it was supposed to start in the 19, I don't know, 50s, and one devotion for every, progressing year, but mine was all modern day. So I had nothing to relate to 1950. So it was like, yeah, it was a time travel because everybody was in current day.
yeah. It's like this is my future self. Like, so, and then I was working on the Pearlie Monroe book. And that didn't, I mean, like both, like it did get published, but it was such a like I was not sure if that was gonna go well. But it was fun to even be when we were learning stuff, and we were just I just remember laughing so hard and just not I think it was the next year when we were rooming together at Mount Hermon that somebody said, "Hey, can we stay in your room because there's way too much laughter going on here."
Way too much fun happening over there.
But and I think that that's an important thing, the fact that when we went and we are like, we have no idea what we're doing. And
Oh, I know.
just to submit yourself to somebody and to be bold enough to ask for help. And you had such a great relationship with somebody very, very close and very special. She was as special to you as you were to her, you could tell. And
Mhm.
so Karen was such a valuable, can you speak to the value of having a mentor?
Hopefully without crying, because she just passed away January 1st. So
Mhm.
it has not been that long. And
Yeah.
I think going back to Mount Herman brought back all the feels. But Karen and I, we just click. And I mean, she wrote nonfiction. And at that time, I mean, for adults, like Getting Old Ain't for Wimps. I mean, she was more in, I hate to say this, but more like, I think she was a little bit older than me, but not much. But when we met, and I was just, like 20 years younger than her, at least, or 25. Anyways, we just connected over, I think, besides writing, we lived pretty close to each other. And
Mhm.
so she asked me if I would like to be her critique partner. And I'm like, this author that has sold so many books and is so revered in the writing community is asking me to be her critique partner. It kind of blew me away. And it was such an honor. And we were in this group together learning fiction, learning how to write novels. And but then it became more. It became a friendship. I mean, we met for each other's birthdays. We would always go to the same restaurant. We'd take each other, to Red Apple
Mhm.
Cafe, and then we would take walks together. And she was the one person that anything writing related, she would be one of the first people I called because she was my cheerleader,
Mhm.
and she just like, go Sherry, you can do this. And she was just so encouraging and so supportive. And it's like with her passing, it just makes me feel like I want to be that person for somebody else. You know, I want to make sure that I'm looking at these younger writers and just, finding somebody just to love and encourage just the way Karen did for me because our friendship was so invaluable that it's
Well,
a
and I
big
think
loss
I,
for me.
I think you do find that in the writing community too. You are at a place of vulnerability, and
Yeah.
especially I don't know, maybe this is just because I am mostly a career mom first, like a full career mom, and then also a writer. And sometimes you don't feel like you have permission to value that calling in your life. Maybe I don't know, that we do need friends that can say, no, that is actually a calling in your life. And we support that because I know sometimes there's people that feel like, oh, maybe I'm wasting God's time. Maybe he's busy
Mm.
in Bangladesh. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But it is a calling. And especially if you have devoted your life to something else and then to pivot into writing or to be doing writing while you're doing that, it takes some cheerleading. It takes somebody to keep keep you going.
Well, and what I found after she passed away was that there were so many people who felt like I did. They're like, "Oh, she was my cheerleader." I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
was just who she was, like she had so many people that she supported and encouraged. And it's like, yes, I know that I had a special relationship, with her. And it wasn't like a mom-daughter thing, although her daughters did say, "Oh, you're like another daughter to her." But I knew it was more, we could talk about anything, and it was different than a mom-daughter relationship, but it was very close. And I know that it's definitely a gift that she had for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that you're definitely somebody who's going to be passing that on. So I
Mm.
just think of the people that have come through our path, like Angela Carlisle, and
Yes.
those people that were like, "We'll be at your wedding. We're here for you."
Right.
We just
Oh,
feel like grandmothers and mothers,
yes.
like yentas or something, and just
Right.
we went for these and kind of like book doulas, like, okay, you can birth this baby out. Like, you can do
Exactly.
this, just focus and breathe.
Well, with
So
Angela, it was a writers conference where I was not on faculty that year, and all of my Sycamore sisters were, and I wondered, oh, well, this is, I mean, it was fine because I was working on my devotional, but I'm like, what does God have for me for this writers conference? And then Angela arrives, and then having tea with her and sitting with her, and it was her very first conference at Mount
mhm.
Hermon, and it was like that was my purpose, was to have tea with her, encourage her, show her where her room was, and just support her throughout that conference. And now we're all feel like we're her, mamas or
Fairy godmothers.
fairy
So
godmothers.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to be interviewing Angela as well, because I was the one who picked her up at the airport. Her
right.
plane had gotten so delayed, and then when we got to camp, her key was missing. So, and it was by that time it was raining, and you were worried because you knew that that road gets so crazy anyway.
Yes.
And then it was raining, and then she had no key, and I'm like, "Well, welcome to the Sycamore cabin." And she was like shell shocked. I'm like, "I have instant oatmeal. We've got tea. We've got." so, so that just worked out great. And I just think that the Lord does orchestrate those things when you cannot even, I mean, you can't even put those things together, like
Right.
in our own minds. And then just the connections that you make. But like for you to be able to make that connection to that editor and just have it be like, oh, this isn't what we need. And then that feeling like, oh, but this is what we need. Oh, like
Oh,
so many feels at the same
exactly.
time. So I'm looking forward to seeing what new thing comes out. What do you wish you could still do in your writing career?
I would love to have some like board books for little ones published. I have a little series I'm working on that I would love to get published now that I'm a grandmother of one, soon to be two, and picture books. I mean, I love kids books, and maybe even another middle grade novel, because Love Lexi was supposed to, in my mind, it was supposed to be fiction, but it turned into a devotional. So just straight fiction for middle graders, that would be really fun.
Mhm. Who is one of your favorite writers that you love to read?
Oh, wow. Well, I love Deborah Rainey. I
Mhm.
love Denise Hunter. I love Courtney Walsh.
Mm.
Those are all like my top three that I have to get every one of their books.
Mhm. That's great. That's great. I'm more of a article writer. I'm more of an article reader. So it's always good to know though which are great books, because I think that's an important thing for us to also share others books out there and just be like, have you read so and so? My neighbor
Right.
came over and she likes suspense, and I had some Janice Cantor books
Oh
downstairs.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, here, I've got a book for you. So I just think plugging each other's books and supporting each other is a very valuable part of being part of the Christian writing community.
Right.
So, and then also, I think like kind of what we were talking about is just the striving for excellence. And I think just because you're writing for the Christian market doesn't mean that that should be less
Oh,
than, and I think in the past it was seen as less, but I think that the level is coming up. And I feel like for us, we should be the torchbearers of holding up that, the standards that are the highest, because we're writing for the Lord and we don't want to give him a bad name by having us not do our work, not do our
right.
homework. So
Well, actually, it is more just because we have to, as Christian writers, add that spiritual theme or spiritual thread throughout the book. And that's something that they don't, in the secular market, they don't have to do. And so it almost makes it, um, not easier, but it's just different because we do have to add that extra element in our books. That makes it,
well,
I think, tougher.
well, and then the other thing is we have to rely on good plot lines and good suspense and good storyline, and not just throw in like a scene that's like, and why did they put this in here? Like,
Right.
why would they do that? And it's because it's like, well, I guess that was 4 pages that they didn't have to actually think through. I don't even know what were they thinking, except for
Right.
being lazy writers. And
Yeah.
so I feel like as Christians, you have to be really on your game so that it does turn from one page to the next page.
Right.
So I think that's,
Well, lazy writing is for the first draft. Let's just put it that way.
yeah.
Just get it on the page, just get it down, just start somewhere. And then, yeah, that's
would
when
you would you say you're more of a pantser or a plotter?
I would say I'm definitely more a pantser. Although I do have a basic, like a skeleton plot in my mind. I know what I want to happen and where I'm going. But the rest I leave to pantsing because I'm way more creative having it come out my fingertips than thinking and thinking and thinking about it, like now what should happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, I've written 2 historical romance and that's probably the end of it because you know me with timelines. It's too much, it's just a lot more involved with, oh, did this really happen in this time? And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, that's an added element that I don't need anymore in
Yeah.
my life. So sorry.
But I think that it's good to know that that's where your genre is contemporary women's fiction.
Right.
So
Contemporary women's with a hint of mystery in that something mysterious is happening, not like a typical mystery, but or just sweet romance. Yeah, those are my 2 genres. Yeah.
intrigue. We'll just go with the intrigue there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bit of it.
So, okay. So you have a big summer ahead. What are you working on right now?
Well, yeah, with my husband retiring in 2 weeks, things are kind of just trying to get him through this next stage of life. But in the writing, I'm kind of in between projects. So I'm really praying about what I want to do next. I am working on a picture book right now. So
Mhm.
we'll see where it ends up. Um, but also just some vacation time with family is where the
Mhm.
summer is gonna, and a retirement party for my husband. So those are my main focuses at the moment.
Maybe that would be a great book for you when he retires. So,
And maybe
because
maybe some hair plugs along with, no, just
yeah,
kidding. That's a joke between Marcy and I
yeah.
about the hair plugs. That
I
was
thought it was
her
a good
idea.
plot line. I thought it was a good plot line. So yeah, I was just trying to help Sherry out on a good plot line, but she didn't go with the hair plug idea. So,
No.
but I was thinking, James Scott Bell, he was intrigued. I'm just gonna say he was intrigued, especially when I said it could appeal to NASCAR. You could get a sponsor easy there. Could
Yeah.
endorsement. So
Think about it some more.
okay.
And how many years? That's funny.
So anyway, well, thank you, Sherry. I'm so excited for this new adventure. I think that's the thing too about being a writer for a long time, is that we do see our life kind of in chapters. Like this is a new chapter for you and your husband and your family with grandbabies coming, and your husband retiring. So this is kind of an exciting new chapter. And I think that that also makes the sweetness of knowing that we write for the Lord. Like we're in between projects, which just means that he has something in store for us, and we just need to be ready for when that happens.
Well,
So,
my husband, he taught sixth grade. He was a teacher for 38 years, and we've actually toyed with the idea of writing a book together because he knows kids, and so we've talked about that. And he's very creative, and he tells a good story. So it
hmm,
might be a collaboration project. You never know.
okay, probably surfing would be involved.
Possibly.
Yeah. So, okay, well, Sherry, Kyle, thank you so much for joining me from my office to your office. I always look forward to seeing you. I always look forward to spending time with you. And it just seems like we never have enough time to laugh together.
Oh,
So
very true.
I
Very.
appreciate that about you. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Mhm. Okay, okay. I am going to wait. Did you hang up? No. Okay, I'm just gonna unrecord, stop recording. Okay, good.